Nagharap ang mga kandidato para sa pagka-bise presidente na sina Republican J.D. Vance at Democrat Tim Walz sa isang debate ilang linggo bago ang eleksyon sa Estados Unidos. Ilan sa mga mahahalagang isyong kanilang pinagdebatehan ay ang Middle East, immigration, healthcare at gun violence. Narito pang report ni Thomas I. Likeness.
The debate was largely cordial and focused on policy, unlike the encounter between Trump and Harris a few weeks ago. There were no personal attacks and insults. The debate opened with a question about the Middle East. Walz responded, saying Harris would continue the stable leadership of the Biden administration.
But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago. A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous.
Vance insisted Trump delivered stability in the region, saying in those days foreign agents were afraid of Trump and afraid of stepping out of line. Vance also targeted immigrants as being the cause of most of the country's problems.
In Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed, you've got hospitals that are overwhelmed, you've got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim, and I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Vance continuously implied that Harris, as vice president, has been a primary decision maker in the White House on issues such as immigration and the war in Gaza. At one point, he referred to the administration of Kamala Harris, and later he referred to when Harris came into office. On the issue of gun control, Vance seemed to reject any stricter measures on firearms ownership to deal with the problem of school shootings.
We have to increase security in our schools. We have to make the doors lock better. We have to make the doors stronger. We've got to make the windows stronger. And of course, we've got to increase school resource officers, because the idea that we can magically wave a wand and take guns out of the hands of bad guys, it just doesn't fit with recent experience. So we've got to make our schools safer.
Walz says that's not the way to go. He says he'd like to see red flag laws and a ban on assault-style weapons instead.
Do you want your schools hardened to look like a fort? Is that what we have to go when we know there's countries around the world that their children aren't practicing these types of drills? They're being kids. We owe it to them to get a fix.
Vance sidestepped a question on whether he believes former President Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Instead, he questioned Harris's actions regarding free speech during the pandemic. Whether this debate will change the minds of voters is anyone's guess, but for those who stayed with the 2-hour program, it gave them a side-by-side look at the understudies in the presidential election. Thomas I. Likeness from Atanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Hello, Thomas. We'd just like to know, what is your take on the debate? Do you think it actually changed anyone's mind? Thomas?
Well, first of all, my opinion of it, much better than the presidential debate when it comes to content. Now, this 2-hour talk fest focused on policy. It lacked the drama and personal insults that you saw in the Harris-Trump encounter. Now, for a political groupie like me, that's good. But whether the majority of viewers hung on until the end, well, the ratings numbers are not out yet. Now, did it change anybody's mind? That's hard to say. Both Walz and Vance played to their core supporters. Walz may have, though, picked up some of the undecideds, and that's because of his folksy, neighborly style. You know, the style of the two candidates couldn't be any more different. Vance is a Yale-educated lawyer, and he's got a very slick, smooth speaking style. But you don't seem to get a connection to him. Walz, though, he's a former high school teacher. He's now the governor of Minnesota, been elected twice there as governor, and he sounds like the kind of neighbor everyone wishes they had. You know, maybe to some, he's like the teacher or the football coach they had.
So, Thomas, Yes, Thomas, what about the message that the two candidates brought to the debate? How do you think they differed?
Well, there's certainly a study in contrasts. We talked about their difference in speaking style and connecting with people a moment ago. But when it came to answering questions put to them by the moderators, it seemed like J.D. Vance was in a game of verbal dodgeball much of the time. He evaded questions. He would pivot to his usual themes. One of them, well, Harris has been vice president for 3.5 years, so why hasn't she fixed these problems? He seems to forget that it's Joe Biden in the presidential chair, not Kamala Harris. His other go-to theme is that most of America's problems are caused by immigrants, and he didn't let up on that. He also vigorously defended Trump's record as president, but you didn't get a lot of answers from him. Now, Walz doesn't have Vance's smooth delivery, but he scored points on issues such as the economy, climate change, health care, and he did this by offering solutions. But in the end, this debate will likely have little effect on the election. Voters are going to be focused on the names at the top of the tickets, namely Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for your very interesting and informative report, reporting from our U.S. News Bureau.